lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. We call that our life cycle, made a shirt about it, and it rings true with who we are as a podcast and a group. We are fortunate enough to have partnered with a company who can help us achieve one of those three key elements: Som Sleep. They have a keto-friendly version of their delicious sleep aid drink, and we're loving it. It's a lightly flavored 8-ounce anti-energy drink. You drink it roughly 30 minutes before you're ready to go to sleep, and you'll feel it help you into a deep, restful, all-night sleep. It provides some helpful elements to do so, including magnesium, GABA, and melatonin. When combined, you have a powerful tool for getting the impactful sleep that you and I so frequently don't get in our technology-driven, fast-paced lives. You can find it at some retail stores, but you can also purchase it online and get it shipped to your door. When you do, use discount code TKMC10 and you'll not only be getting 10% off, but you'll be helping support the Keto Man's Club. You can find the link to their website by going to theketomansclub.com. We're thankful to Som for partnering with us, and we hope you'll benefit from use of their product the way we have so far.
Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of your hosts, and as always, I'm joined by Berto and Jim. How's it going, Berto?
Take 3 for the guy, whoever has the motorcycle that keeps going up and down someone's street, changing gears at all the right times. No, everything's going great. Stood up in one of my really, really good friend's wedding yesterday. That went really well. Had a little bit of a snafu with suit fitment, because when they measure, your chest and your neck and your arms, what they don't measure are your thighs. So the suit was a little tight, and then we got down for what my buddy called the jail pose, where we just got on the ground and looked like we were recording a rap album. And yeah, I split the inseam of my pants inside my left thigh. So
there are worse reasons to split pants. So
yeah. Nobody noticed, and obviously once the party got going, it was all good. So all is well that ends well.
Yep, absolutely. Jim, what's new with you?
Oh, life is exciting in Southern Indiana. Said no one ever. It's been pretty quiet, pretty calm. Spring is starting, and it's kind of nice. Just calm for a moment. COVID numbers are dropping. Things are starting to open up a little bit. So I'm just hanging on and enjoying the moment.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, things in Texas are kind of doing the same. We had some mandates lifted, but all the organizations are just saying, well, we're not changing anything. So nothing's changed.
Nothing changes at all. Yeah. Quite literally, nothing changes at all.
It's whatever. I have been busy, but I did take a couple days this past week to just try to not do work constantly, because that was that's something I've been doing a lot of. So I took a couple days and played some video games and just kind of tried to relax a little bit, and didn't really get ahead, which was the whole point. I didn't want to get ahead. I just wanted to try to relax, and so we still got plenty of work and things to do, and that's life, but that's okay. That's kind of just the way of things. So let's talk real quickly about business, podcast, business, and all that type of stuff. A couple of reminders to our listeners. You can check out all of our links to everything at theketomansclub.com. And one of the important links to pay attention to right now is that our web store, our merch store, is open. So we have a few items in quote unquote in stock. Everything is made to order. So it's kind of one of those things that right now we're we're just kind of ordering the supplies as needed instead of keeping inventory. So it will still probably take a week and a half to get everything in and out and everything. But as far as that goes, we're set up to be able to get those merch items out there. And one of those things that we had to retire for a little while because the design was a little hard to screen print was the Steaks Over Shakes design. I have heat transfers for that design available, and it's limited quantity for right now. We can order more, but it's kind of one of those things we got to do them in batches. So get in on the Steaks Over Shakes while you can, and then as things progress, we'll be making more designs available on a more regular basis. It's going to be pretty cool to have that stuff available on a regular basis instead of having to just do limited releases. And we'll be working on trying to get some new designs in place as well, because we don't have the same restrictions that we did before, because we can do this heat transfer option. So check out theketomansclub.com. There is the merch link towards the top of the list. You can get our social media, our group, the podcast links, our YouTube channel. This one's going to be an audio only because we had some technical issues, but we do have episodes that are being filmed as well as recorded in audio. And I've been editing those down. We've got some this week. The one that I'm going to be pushing out is the one where we talked about the continuous glucose monitor. So definitely check out that, because that one's a visual one. We show you what the sensor looks like, what the process looks like to actually attach them, things like that. So you'll want to see it. It's definitely a conversation that's a little better visually than it was listen only. So definitely check out the YouTube channel for all of that video goodness. Links to all of that, again, is at theketomansclub.com. You can also reach us by email, ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you there, or by calling or texting our comment line, 512-518-6161. You can call or text that, and we'll get it, and we'd love to hear from you there. I think that's all the business I want to attend to right now. So let's jump into shout-outs. Let's start with Jim.
My shout-out is actually one that we have recognized before, but I think it's been a little bit. Father Stephen Kelly. Stephen Kelly is a priest, and he put up a Transformation Tuesday photo in early March for us, and he has gone from 302 in September 2018 to 180 pounds today. And he is a awesome contributor to the group. He has shared a variety of meal ideas and some honest insight to his life and whatnot. So giving some love to Stephen Kelly today.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. We got to get that guy on.
Yes, we do. Berto?
Mine? I'm going to go for a double. I'm going to go for a double today if I'm allowed. Guess what? I'm allowed. Yep. The first one, just because it made me giggle, was I remember Cecil Rhodes, with no caption whatsoever, just posted a picture of him sitting on his couch with what appeared to be, I would say, 40 to 50 pounds, maybe? 40 to 50 pound pig. And then the comments that followed the picture of him sitting on his couch with a pig on his lap in a man's keto group, as you can imagine, were pretty good.
Lots of bacon comments, I'm guessing. I haven't actually seen it.
And then the second one is to our friend Chris Duckett here. And I was going to show you guys a beautiful shirt, but we're having video issues, but I'm wearing it now. But he found a shirt that he said, just scream my name. And I'll have to post a picture of it, but it's a deadlift shirt, and it is super cool, and I really enjoy wearing it. So I'll get a picture up so you guys see what I'm talking about. But thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was that I Am Project X comes out with some really cool designs every now and again. And this one, and they're mostly limited edition. And so I saw this, and I'm like, oh, that just screams Berto. So I jumped on it real quick for him, and we brothers gotta help brothers out every now and then. So I'm going to shout out Ricky Bailey. He posted a Transformation Tuesday in early March as well. And for how much baggage I had, it's healed really well this past year. I was at 420 pounds June of 2018, had lost 232 pounds in 20 months. I'm carnivore now and generally fast 18-6, 0 time spent to the gym. And he actually does. He looks pretty good. He's got his fair share of loose skin, but the intermittent fasting has definitely worked to keep that as limited as is possible. And he looks good, looks fit, looks muscular. The primarily, carnivore definitely is working for him in making sure that his muscle mass was built and or maintained during his extreme weight loss. That's a lot there. So good job, Ricky. Any other club news that we need to dig into, Jim?
The only other thing I would say is probably within the next month or so, maybe a little bit more. We are creeping on 900 members in our 101 group, so we'll celebrate the 1,000 mark probably by May, I would say, at the very latest. So the 101 group has been around for about a year and a half or so, and it's definitely not slowed in growth. With all of the craziness of social media right now, Facebook has definitely done some weird things of marketing groups and whatnot, and that's a discussion for another day and off the podcast. But the Keto 101 Man's Club has right now just under 900 members, and both groups, guys from all over the country, all over the world, truly. Lots of guys who have heard about it, starting brand new, guys who have done it, fallen off the wagon, coming back on, guys who just want to maintain and get some moral support and whatnot. So find one of the groups that works for you, join us, and looking forward to 1,000 in the 101 Club very, very soon.
Absolutely. And that's the type of thing that just kind of grows exponentially as you go. So we hit 1,000, it's going to get to 2,000 that much faster. More than likely. So that's really cool to see. And, it's not about being famous, but it's about the community that's being built and supporting, the each other in community. And that's great. If you are a member of the Keto, of the 101 group, and you've been around for a while and you're feeling like you may still want the support of the 101, but you also feel like you're no longer in the 101 area as far as experience wise, feel free to go ahead and apply and apply to the main group. Again, link to that at theketomansclub.com. And the only real requirement really is the option to, or the question for the macros. So if you can tell us what a general ketogenic macro is, even if you don't track for yourself, that's really the barrier of entry to get into the main group. So do that and you'll be in and you'll be able to be in both groups. And I can promise you being in both groups is, it's a very symbiotic, relationship there. They go well together for sure. Okay, well, we have a return guest with us this week. Ben Phelps is known as Primal Bro on most of Facebook, and he's been on before, shared his story and all of that. Some of the highlights was that he shopped in the Husky section at JCPenney's. So and I think most of us did. So that's nothing new. Or news to anyone. But yeah, we're glad to have him back on to just get an update and things like that. So Ben, what's going on? What's new?
What's going on, guys? I really appreciate you having me back on. I'm not going to lie, I was semi-surprised to get the invite, given that I guess after a long relationship with afraid a little bit that this might be a get you episode, but I figured they're good guys. They're not going to do that to me, right? Probably not. But I'm doing good. Everything is going really well. Things are both tremendously the same and unrecognizably different, I guess, like simultaneously from the last time I was on. And I'm happy to give updates, dive deep into anything you want. I was excited to come on, though, because since the first time I was on, I know that our boy Berto has started his own jujitsu journey or career or whatever word you want to put at the end of it. But I know my man's on the mat is getting it done, so I couldn't turn him down when he asked me to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If by getting it done you mean getting really good at tapping out and not being able to breathe, then yes, I am getting it done.
That's steps like 1 through 7. So just keep going.
Yep. Very cool. So you did actually cut out a little bit there, and I'll just leave it in for the most part. But but you were saying that you were surprised because you're not strict keto right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have days. I'll still have days where I eat 0 grams of carbohydrates for the whole day. But whereas that used to be every single day, now that might be once or twice every week or two. I'm eating a fair number of carbohydrates. It's part of my, I think it's a combination of like the genuine, like noble spirit of like progression and trying to test new things and push myself and do all this stuff, but just in a dietary sense. And then the other thing that it's a combination of is this innate, for whatever reason, desire that I always have to like go against like a contrarian almost, right? So like I basically, I was convinced at one point, right, like keto was the only solution. And at that time in my life, it absolutely was. But then I get a little restless, I get a little stir crazy, and now all of a sudden I'm eating rice on the regular. But I can go as deep now or wait if you want, but I think it's always important to say one thing whenever I have this conversation. And it's that while I'm eating carbohydrates now, that is a very big term because I'm not eating donuts or pizza or pasta or bread or anything. Really, honestly, up to this point, the only real things that you would call the carbohydrates I'm eating are rice, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. And then a handful of low carb tortillas, which I probably would have eaten before anyway. So, it's not carbs does not mean donuts and pancakes and all that stuff that kind of put me in this situation that I had to correct, that you can go back and listen to my first appearance on the Keto Man's Club podcast, I guess, to hear about that like weight loss transformation phase. But I'll never be someone who can incorporate donuts into their everyday life. And I think because of all my experiences and everything that I do truly believe about nutrition and things like that, it's just, I don't think that anyone is meant to, no matter how many people can kind of do it. You know what I'm saying? And I've basically mentioned 7 topics, so I'll kind of take a step back.
You're good. Now, that being said, I know I've seen some mention of I believe it's the PE protocol or something like that.
So yeah, that is one thing that one thing that's both like one thing that's a pain in the butt. I'll avoid the curse word for now. One thing that's like kind of both a pain in the butt and really freeing is that it is very hard to put a label. Like it's hard to hashtag my diet because it is not always the same, like consistently day over day. But there is the one approach that I have, or the one explanation I'll say that I have heard that I do more or less follow, and it's probably the best way to sum up my diet now is by Ted Naiman, the PE or protein to energy ratio diet, right? And essentially it focuses just really heavily on how calorie dense foods are and how satiating they are. So it puts them on an index. And the reason that it's protein to energy is because really what you're doing is ensuring you eat a certain amount of protein. Obviously, no matter what diet you follow, there's some debate around what the correct amount of protein is, but essentially you have a protein amount that you're going for. You have a goal there. And then the rest of your calories coming from both carbohydrates and fat are viewed as energy. And they both kind of get lumped into this same category, right? So you have protein, which is its own separate thing and has its own unique functions. Carbs and fat are the energy. That's what's going to fuel performance and energy and all this stuff. And then, like I said, that kind of fills into wherever I'm eating. So my approach now is I basically have a minimum of 180 grams of protein a day. It's usually closer to the 200 gram mark. And then I eat somewhere between 23 and 2,500 calories, typically with outliers here and there. in both directions, honestly. But it's an average of about 2,400 when I've looked at it on a 3-week basis. So it's 200 grams of protein, and then the rest, like I said, it's all just energy. And there are days where all of that energy comes from fat. I just have some bunless burgers, just the same kind of meals I would have had when I was doing keto carnivore style eating. Or I'll have, rice and ground beef or rice and chicken, and it'll be very low fat. And I kind of just flow very fluidly kind of back and forth between, like, I don't have any set ratio for how many carbs to how much fat for my total calories. As long as I eat enough protein and I don't eat so many calories that I'm eating like an asshole, then, and I cussed and I apologize. But as long as I'm checking those 2 boxes, like control my calories and eat enough protein, that's really the big focus. But because this whole thing started for me, you said it right off the top, right? I'm known as Primal Bro everywhere. And that's because the one thing that started all this for me that I probably will never stray away from is more of the paleo diet approach, or a primal lifestyle approach, which is really just to focus on whole foods, single ingredients, right? And that's one concept of setting myself up to do this PE diet like version that I have found myself doing, because even my logical progression, and that was again very long answer to a very short question, but I more or less do the PE diet from Ted Naiman. He was on my podcast, so I'll go ahead and plug that on yours. But I had Ted Naiman on, and I was really excited for that one. So we went really deep into what the PE diet is, and kind of it's almost a broader, it's taking a step back from saying you're keto, saying you're carnivore, from being a vegetarian, right? And it's more just looking at, he was an engineer before he became a doctor. So it looks at it very much like an engineer, right? It just breaks down these numbers, protein, energy, that makes that really simple. And then satiety, he focuses on protein and fiber. It's an approach that works really well for me now. But I will say, and I tell everyone this, that if I was still in the weight loss phase of my life, or still kind of, say if this was me 2 years ago, maybe even 18 months ago, but definitely like 2.5 years ago, this diet probably would not have worked as well or fit as well for me as it does now.
So when you did this change, Ben, and adapted to this PE diet, as you call it, what were the modifications that you were doing on your going from keto to that? I mean, obviously the carbs part of it, but how were you kind of experimenting to find the sweet spot that worked for you, so that you didn't go back down the pathway of eventually finding the donuts and pizza that you're not doing right now, as you mentioned?
I think that really goes back to what I was talking about being, even I've been doing this actually funny enough, it all kind of started when we initially, so almost a year ago, we got put in the initial quarantine lockdown, right? Like when everything really first kicked off, and like I didn't go to work, and jiu-jitsu was closed, the gym was closed. So like I got a little stir crazy, and I started doing this thing just for goofs, right? Like, and almost to distract myself. I called it carbantine, and I posted a lot of things about it, and I ate a lot of sweet potatoes. And that was, I would call the reasoning that I did that, or that whole experiment, kind of came from like a flawed place, right? Like it wasn't a well thought out decision to do that, or it wasn't even necessarily done specific enough to call it an experiment. But what I did realize was, like, after the gym opens back up and I start going back, I did go back to eating keto after that, but I never was able to shake this, like, wow, nothing happened, right? There's nothing bad happened thing. But I think, so this time when I kind of started, I did it a little more intelligently. And like I said, carbs has really only meant rice and potatoes, and sweet potatoes. I've even been I'll call it nervous or possibly content. I haven't even had any fruit, because I could see where fruit, because it has the sweet factor, could kind of push me in the other direction. I have the benefit of, no matter how I eat very boring, and it's very repetitive, and it's very limited. It's like the same 4 foods put in a different shape or arrangement every day, more or less. And I was doing that when I was keto too. So again, unintentionally, perhaps I've done like an elimination diet of sorts. So as I just incorporated one thing at a time, and it started with rice. And then I did some potatoes and sweet potatoes. And funny enough that now I've just kind of settled in on only eating rice is really the only true, what I would say, carbohydrate to the keto group that I consume, because I can objectively say that while the food behaviors, like the cravings and the drive for donuts has not come back, I can say that when I eat potatoes, even gram for gram, eating the exact same carbohydrate macros with potatoes versus rice, I feel worse physically. Like I don't feel good or optimal when I eat the potatoes, right? So that is, again, to quickly answer your question, it's more than 0 to 100, right? And I'm still not even going 60 miles an hour, and if to carry on that metaphor, right? I'm maybe going 10 or 20 miles an hour. Like I'm still not tremendously far from eating the things that I was eating before, now just with the addition of the carbs. So now the fat can come down and carbs go up. But I'm avoiding what I would say, quote unquote, trigger foods, or even more, I guess, traditional carbohydrates. So yeah, like you said, I'm not eating donuts, but I'm also being very careful to not do too much too soon, because both in my own experience in my history, and now with how many clients I've worked with, how many people I've worked with, how many people I've just generally talked to through social media and the internet, I know that too much too soon is a very real thing. So yeah, there's another long answer.
Nothing wrong with long answers. Just two quick questions. One, were you able to start training again? And two, did you receive any backlash when you started posting pictures of your rice dishes?
So two massive questions. Begin training. Jiu-jitsu opened back up in June of last year, and it hasn't, short of a couple weeks where I don't even really remember what the reasoning was, but like short of a couple weeks where I think there was like an uptick where we got nervous, so we shut down for a short time. I haven't really had any time off since then. I will, not that you asked this, but I will say that there is a noticeable performance difference for me eating the carbs and doing the jiu-jitsu. And everyone always asked me this when I first started training, like, was going keto hard when you did jiu-jitsu? And it was like, well, fun fact, I didn't start jiu-jitsu until I had already lost most of my weight following a keto diet. So I didn't have anything to compare it to, right? But now I do. And I can say that I do feel better. But again, if my goal was weight loss, probably wouldn't be doing it. And speaking of my goals, I think that was something that was really hard to communicate when I did start, say, like posting, because you asked about if I experienced backlash. I experienced backlash is a big term. Reaction, good, bad, indifferent. People seemed angry. People seemed like concerned for me. Then there were other people who seemed intrigued and fascinated. But it was probably one of the biggest, I guess, responded to things, decisions, moves that I've made since I've been a more quote unquote public figure. Like I put a lot of myself out there between Instagram and podcasts and all the things that I do. And making that change, I guess I didn't realize how attached people had me to keto in their brains until I did that. So again, trying to shorten up my answers. There was definitely backlash. There was definitely some people who were unhappy and who were concerned for me. And to sound a little dramatic, there were people who basically seemed like they thought I was a goner, right? One way or the other. Like, oh, he's going to go get fat again. He's going to go kill himself now. Like it felt some people felt very extreme. But then, like I said, there were some people who were very supportive, good for you. Try to do what works for you, that type of thing. So as with most topics on social media, you will get a large spectrum, right, of reaction to different topics. And I even, it's funny, I made a reference at one point to the fact that, because like, obviously I found as much, I guess, interaction or response to my dietary choices as I saw people making to political things. So it was interesting to me how similarly we treat those two topics, because that was what it really, what it felt like, was like, you're either team keto or you're not, a lot, like in a general sense. But But yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say there was support too. So backlash might be an unfair way to say it, but there's definitely response.
Hey there, a quick interruption and we'll get you right back to the show. Are you to the point in your journey where you need a bit more information to help you further refine your day-to-day or improve your overall health? Have you ever wondered specifically how your body reacts to different food or drink items like non-caloric sweeteners or different keto-friendly items or carbs? Now you can get that information. We recently chatted with the good folks at NutriSense about their continuous glucose monitor setup and application. They provide not only a device, but an app and the support from nutritional professionals who can help you understand the data that you're receiving from the sensor. These pain-free 2-week sensors give you 24/7 data tracking your glucose response so you can see what's going on inside in near real time. If you'd like to try it out and sign up for a plan, you can do so through our website, theketomansclub.com, and find the option for NutriSense. Use discount code TKMC25 at checkout, and you'll get $25 off the first month of your non-trial plan when you sign up. I personally found the information I got from the CGM and the NutriSense system invaluable, and I believe you will too. Now back to our show.
Yeah, and one thing I brought up to someone else, we were having a conversation similar to this one, and I'm like, they also got to understand that you've been at this a while. This is not like it was your first month and you decided on week 3 that you're going to change the way you're eating. I'm sure once you decided to go all in, it was an extremely well thought out decision, and you kind of wanted to see what would happen. And actually, I was going to ask you about the performance aspect. Another thing I want people to realize too is that while jiu-jitsu looks all calm and coordinated and calculated when you're watching it from the outside, it has got to be one of the most exhausting, hardest things you could possibly do when you're in it and when you're one of the dudes rolling around on the mat. I mean, the only thing I can really equate it to, and if you got a better explanation, let me know. But I pretty much tell everyone it's the most extreme, high intensity interval training you're ever going to do, because you're either in a moment of just staying still and catching your breath, or almost 100% effort. And it's kind of hard to go in between. So, we do anywhere between 5 and 7 minute rounds at the gym I go to, and they are by far the most exhausting 5 or 7 minutes of my life. Then you get up, the little bell goes off, you get up, get a drink of water, you pick a new partner, and bam, you're back at it for 5 to 7 minutes. And, you're doing that for 30 to 45 minutes. And to say it's exhausting is an understatement. So even if you were eating an excessive amount of carbs, I would dare to say that in this scenario, they would do you almost no harm at all.
Yeah, because that's another thing. It's really worth noting again, when I say carbs, I mean limited food choices. I also mean, I want to find a minimal effective dose with just about anything, right? I took the same approach to electrolytes the whole time I was doing keto, right? I don't want to just jam salt down my face all day to make sure I cover it, right? I want to figure out how much sodium, how much of these electrolytes do I need to get all the benefits without going over, right? And I kind of view carbs in a really similar sense. I don't know that there's been a day, or there's been very rare instances in the last 6 or 9 months, however long since I've fully pulled the trigger on this, that I went over 200 grams of carbs in a day. Which is still relatively low carb compared to a standard American diet, or a lot of diets that maybe bodybuilders would follow. The carbohydrates would be maybe closer to 300 grams. Or if you're eating like the old me, you're up in the 400 neighborhood, possibly 500. It was everything in context, right? Like you said, I've been at this for a while. I've been since day one of saying I got to change something when I weighed 333 pounds. I'm over 6 years into it. At this point, or right around the 6-year mark, but I think on the other side of 6 years. So yeah, I've done a lot of changes, and like I said, and I can't say it enough, and I think I'll probably say it more, just because I'm on this podcast, that for weight loss, even if my current goals were weight loss, because you have to prioritize, right? And it's like you said, jiu-jitsu is intense, and jiu-jitsu is the thing that has now slid to the top of my goals as far as my diet relates, right? Because that is the big focus. I want to compete. I want to get better. I really want to live out the athletic career that I never had as the youth shopping in the Husky section. Like, right, we talked about, like, I didn't do anything as a kid. But now I have medals and I compete and I do something that's physically difficult. And I really want to wring every last ounce of potential out of this athletic or physical pursuit while I still can. That's a big reason as to why I eat the way that I eat, because for weight loss, whether it be me or for someone else, I still think that keto is the place that even if you don't stay, like, even if you're one of those people where keto, quote unquote, doesn't work for you, right? If it's just not something that you kind of vibe with, I still think that it's worth a try, because it was truly transformative for me, both mentally, like not just the physical part, right? That part's obvious. But really the mental freedom and clarity that it gave me to become a person who could handle eating rice and potatoes again, versus, like you said, if I'm at the end of my first month or even first 3 months and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to give this keto thing up and go to potatoes. It's like, well, I would tell someone not to do that, even as the person who may be causing them to want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
So a couple follow-ups to some of that, because I'm liking what I'm hearing. I do think that we all have to find what works for us, whatever that ends up being. And so one thing I'm noticing, in this is you are not going for sugars of any sort. It doesn't sound like, and you're avoiding flours. So any type of refined grain, you're avoiding those. So all you're doing is natural starches. I personally can totally see how that would work. And actually depending on if the rice is cooled or not, it might actually act as what's considered a resistant starch, and where your body doesn't like absorb it and treat it the same way as if it's been if it's heated at that point. It's something about the heating cooling process. As long as it's cooled, your body reacts a little differently to rice in that regard. I did want to ask about meal timing or carb timing. Are you specifically eating carbs at a specific point of the day, centered around when you are training, so that you have that glucose hit before you go to the gym, or what's that looking like for you?
So the only time that and I guess to back up super fast, you're 100% correct, right? It's no sugar, no grain. That's the influence of that paleo background that I come from, right? Like to eat more biologically appropriate diet, just the same reason that you feed a dog a raw diet, right? I'm just things that can be problematic. But in terms of timing, the only hard and fast rule that I really have on this is, like you said, most of the jujitsu that I do is in the evenings. So I'll make sure that I eat probably a couple hours before that. I'll have my most carbohydrate dense meal of the day, or possibly in a lot of cases, honestly, my only carbohydrates of the day before jujitsu. And beyond that, I still end up almost unintentionally fasting. I've never, even at my heaviest and my worst eating behaviors, I was never a huge breakfast person. I would always at least wait a few hours before eating. It just has always been something that kind of worked for me. So I end up intermittent fasting again, but that's not an intentional practice. It's just a side effect of, I guess, being me. But yeah, I do structure my carbs around the workouts, but so like I had carbohydrates with my dinner tonight. I had rice, but Sundays are the laziest days that I have. I think I did minimal. I might have gotten 1.5 miles in walking outside, and I bounced on a trampoline for about 3 minutes. So like I'm not, it's not always, they don't always go together. Like some days on Sunday, I'll have no carbohydrates and I'll have a busier day. Maybe we go hiking or something. But in terms, again, going back to like, what is my priority? While my weight is always going to matter to me, and jujitsu does require my weight to matter to a certain degree going like into competitions. My weight management or my weight aspect is not priority number one. It's just on the list. Priority number one is jujitsu. So that's why, like I said, I make sure that I use the carbs for that training. And then any more that I eat is not necessarily, there's no intelligent design behind that. Like having carbs today is not because I'm going to wake up and work out in the morning. There's been days where I have no carbs on Sunday and then Monday I get up and I do some kind of workout. So, but yeah, I guess trying to directly answer your question, I do structure most to all of my daily carbohydrates around my training, as long as it's jiu-jitsu related training. I don't put the same emphasis on carbs before like some of my kettlebell work or other stuff that I'll do, just because and maybe this is something where I have an opportunity to get better, but it's not physically demanding enough for me to feel like I really need that extra, say, boost. Like in jiu-jitsu, I want every possible boost or piece of fuel, ounce of fuel that I can have.
You talked about mental clarity a little bit ago, so I'm just kind of curious. Did you notice anything as you were adapting your diet, good or bad, on the mental side of things at all?
That's where I found specific food selection to matter the most. I would get, so when I said I felt physically, I just felt worse when I would eat potatoes. And then sweet potatoes, honestly, if we're looking at a spectrum, for me, rice is pretty much harmless. And I had russet potatoes, and they've made me feel like, honestly, it's not, I don't continue to eat them because they just made me feel so bad. And part of that bad was like that cloudy headed feeling that we talk about so often, right? And this probably isn't surprising when you really look at it, because it goes back to glycemic index, right? A russet potato was much more, the glycemic load is a lot more intense with russet potato than a sweet potato. And sweet potatoes, funny enough, on that spectrum of rice to potatoes for me, fell somewhere in the middle. If I ate too much, like if I had too many, I'd kind of start to feel that feeling. But if I just had a small amount of sweet potato in a day, then it was negligible difference. Like I said, to this point, rice has been the cleanest burning thing. I don't feel hunger pains. I don't feel energy, like crashes, spikes or crashes or any of that. It's built relatively both mental clarity and energy for throughout the day are pretty steady. Like I didn't experience much of an impact. And like I said, until you get into specific foods, because I could have 150 grams of carbohydrates 2 days in a row. But if I had potatoes one day, that day, or the following day, I'm going to feel much worse than if I had the rice the day prior. So yeah, I guess both. I didn't feel it hasn't been a problem that needs to be addressed in other ways, short of avoiding certain foods that seem to cause those suboptimal feelings.
So did you ever get the cravings for the pizza, the pasta, all the stuff that you didn't need, the stuff that puts you in the husky jeans section at JCPenney's?
I firmly always believe that whatever it is in my brain that made me the way that I was, or I should say, whatever I did to create this brain, is more accurately, I can't check out at the gas station without eyeballing the candy on the rack, right? And I hear a lot of people who have gone through weight loss journeys, or even supporters of like a ketogenic diet, who say they're like, I don't even want those things anymore. And I believe that person when they say it, but I don't know that I'll ever be able to put myself there, right? So to say that like I didn't have any cravings even on keto would be dishonest, right? Like there's always this little pull, but it's almost like through repetition. Like 100 pounds is a lot of weight, but if you move 100 pounds enough times, like if you tell Berto to deadlift 100 pounds right now, he'll laugh at you, right? But if you get someone else, right, like someone who's brand new to the gym, who's never worked out really at all, and you say here's 100 pounds, they're going to struggle. And I think that I've just put enough reps in at that practice of telling yourself no, prioritizing like, no, I have these goals. I don't want to eat that food because it will move me further away from it, perhaps hinder my progress towards my weight loss goals. It'll perhaps trigger behaviors that will spiral and it will become worse, right? Like I wouldn't say that I feel cravings any more or less than I ever did on keto. I think I've silenced them. I hope it's not as much as I'm ever going to silence them, like, so to speak, those voices that make me want to eat those things. But I deal with them far less often than I ever used to. And it is much, much easier to tell them to shut up than it ever has been in the past. For me, I guess, again, it's a little of both. None of the foods that I've eaten eating the carbs in general, none of these things have triggered worse cravings than I say would have already experienced, even when I was doing the strictest forms of keto and carnivore that I had done throughout that progression or that chapter of my life.
No, that's great, man. So when you started doing this, did you have like an end game in mind, or you just said, I'm going to give this, 3 months, anything like that? Or you just going to kind of see how it goes and just ride it out as long as you're content? Or do you even see yourself going back?
So I will always, I guess it's a ride it out as long. So let's like, if we can, because we'll have to talk, I guess, in order for this to fully make sense or to feel like I'm explaining it well, we'll have to speak in hypotheticals. If I were to say tear my ACL or do something that prevented me from doing jujitsu right now, I would probably find myself gravitating to a more ketogenic diet. Again, some days even eating no carbs, but that would probably be more often just because once that's gone, I shift priority again, right? But as long as jujitsu is the number one focus, then it is very much I'm going to ride this as long as I can. I'll keep looking for ways to make it better, whether that be shifting further away from keto or closer to keto. But again, I don't want to do too much too soon. So I'm just kind of, there's no timetable. It was very much a, like, if I feel anything, going back to like the cravings, right? Like if that became problematic, even if I was 2 weeks in, I'm bailing. I'm just cutting the cord on it, right? It's not worth it. I guess dealing with that mental torture, like, cause like you can lose weight just restricting calories, but then you have to torture yourself every single day, go to bed because you have these like intense cravings, right? And like, I don't experience any of that. And if I started to, the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze, so to speak. So like, even though I have these intense jujitsu goals, it's not worth my mental like sanity on a daily, hourly, momentary basis. Like, I'd rather live a peaceful life and maybe feel like I don't have the option of using carbs, because that's not to say that I can't still be aggressive in a jujitsu pursuit without them. But if I can use them and they're not problematic, then we're just going to keep on keeping on, right? And always looking for ways, again, to feed into or to really just get better at or hone in on the main focus for me, which again, at this point, physically and as it relates to my diet, that's jujitsu.
So let's start winding things down. You've been very generous with your time tonight. We want to respect that as best as we can.
Yeah. Well, I broke the video and I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's all no worries. So we I guess I think where I want to go to wrap this up is that given that you're kind of on a different leg of your journey, you've been doing this for a really long time, you've got the background of paleo before keto and self-experimentation and all of that. From where you are right now, and we do similar, whenever we're talking with folks that, if you were to talk to yourself whenever you were in your health journey or whenever you were at your fattest or whatever that scenario is, let's talk to the person that's 2 years in. Who, what type of advice would you give someone who they've been keto for a long time, maybe carnivore for a while, they're kind of getting a little bored, they've lost the majority of the weight that they need to lose. What feedback or what encouragement would you give that type of person?
So let's call it feedback, because not all of it will necessarily be encouraging, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But it's more, so the big thing that when people come to me, and I would please, anyone that listens to this, you've listened this far into the episode, if this kind of describes you and you're thinking about making some kind of decision where you like say leave keto, quote unquote, you please message me, talk to me. Because the big thing that I don't think a lot of people really like, it's just why. Like, that's always the big question. Like, again, if I didn't have the physical and athletic goals that I have for myself right now, if I was just really trying to become a healthier version of me and then continue to, I go to work every day, I come home and I'm not training so intensely or trying to do anything competitive, why do you need the carbs? Because it's the same reason that people start talking about cheat days before they have any business talking about it, right? It's a similar concept. It's like, well, why do you want to do that? Because if you want to say leave keto just because you're getting bored and antsy, that's doing what I said I did when quarantine happened with the carbantine thing. And it was like, I just got antsy and I wanted to try these foods. And then, like I said, it wasn't well thought out. I did it for the wrong reasons. And I'm lucky that I guess it didn't end worse, or at least set me further back, say. I'm not to that, I wouldn't be able to recover. But I'm lucky that it didn't hinder my progress in any way. And I think just the biggest thing is to be aware and honest. Like, why do you want to leave this way of eating? Because I probably never would have if I wasn't trying to accomplish the things I'm trying to accomplish. If I was just trying to chill at a maintenance weight, be really lean, like look good on the beach, I'm probably just going to live in that keto space. And that's me. And if keto worked for you to the point where you lost that much weight, if you don't have a goal beyond that weight loss, like that requires your diet to be a factor, then why change it, right? Like there's no, why, right? So it can be encouraging because look at why. And if you want to, see how you've evolved, see how carbs will impact gym performance and all this stuff. But if you just want to, because I really miss rice, like if your reason for wanting to leave keto or stop eating that way is because like, oh, I really miss potatoes, I really liked them, it's probably not the move, because it should be, and I know that this is an opinion word, so this is open to interpretation, but it has to be, you have to have a better reason, right, than that. Like it can't just be because I miss fill in the blank.
Yep. I think that's a great way to look at it. We always encourage people, think about your why. That's going to drive you forward. And, let's be honest, quarantine and work and all of everything that we're dealing with, these days, it's been a hard year. And so there's a lot of us that have been struggling with holding on to that why. And I think that's normal, but recentering and not letting, I just want to change, be your motivation. I think that's very, very wise. So thank you for that. Let's go ahead and I think we talked a lot longer, and I wish that we could. We're actually kind of on a time crunch, so I want to we want to be respectful of your time as well.
Anytime you want to go for the 3P, I'll hop back on. We'll see if we can't finish the video or figure the video thing out next time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, how can people connect with you? What's new that you have going on? And you have a few new things, so go through those real quickly and all the.
Yeah, well, so I used to have this like closing out a podcast pitch down, but like you said, I've got new stuff going on. So I guess this will be my first attempt to kind of sum up all of the my projects, so to speak. But the easiest way or the easiest two ways to find everything, connect with me more, learn more about me, my life, talk to me. I have my website is primalbro.com, but what's probably honestly better than that is if you go to my Instagram, where I'm at Primal Bro. Those will be the two places where you'll learn the most about me and get to connect a little more directly with me. But speaking of directly connecting, I just recently began streaming on Twitch. So I'm twitch.tv/primalbroplays. If you are into video games, and honestly, it's not all just going to be video game stuff. I've always been a gamer, whether I was 300 pounds or 180 pounds, like video games has always been a part of it for me. So now I just kind of take that to Twitch. I get to chat on there, connect with new people, kind of grow a new community of people that have that shared interest, not weight loss, but I do plan on using my Twitch channel to do some like Q&As, maybe some live podcasts and stuff where it'll be a little more weight loss guided. So even if you're not into gaming, it might be worth following me on Twitch. But if you're into video games and you enjoyed this episode, definitely find me there. And then the last two things is I have two podcasts. One is kind of all me, just trying to have interesting conversations with interesting people, trying to enrich the lives of the listeners through inspiration, education, and entertainment. Right there, see, I have practiced my mission statement on that. but I have the Primal Brocast. That's my podcast where I just talk to all kinds of cool people. We talk about all sorts of stuff, so it's really hard to button it up. But if you're into weight loss and you're into eating healthy and you're into just trying to live the best version of your life, you can check that out. And then I also just recently started co-hosting a podcast with my wife that we do once a week. It's called the Date Night Podcast, where we just get on there and we kind of bullshit or talk back and forth. And we play some games. We do some fun stuff. And we semi-pretend to be relationship experts. So you can check that out. It's the Date Night Podcast. Primal Brocast is my podcast. Primal Bro Plays on Twitch, and Primal Bro on Instagram. That pretty much sums everything up. And if you can remember Primal Bro on Instagram, you can get to any of that other stuff real easy. So
you've done a pretty good job of
way to corner the handle.
Yeah.
Dude, I got it. I got it on. I don't even have an iPhone, and I have that username on Clubhouse. I have Primal Bro on TikTok. I have Primal Bro on things I don't even use, just so no one can take it.
Nice. Yeah, you got you've got branding down to an art there. So that's awesome. Okay. Well, it was a pleasure getting to catch up with you and to dig into a lot of the minutia of what you've been going through and working through and finding working for you. Like, that's a big deal. And so that's a really, really cool thing to be able to get to dig into. Always great to get to hang out with you for a while, and hopefully we'll have a conference or KetoCon or something, who knows, in person before too long, and we'll be able to hang out in person again before it comes.
Yes, then I'll get to experience what it's like to stop breathing due to Ben.
Yeah, because that will that will happen.
Oh, I look forward to all of those, particularly the latter of the things. But no, I mean, it's always fun. I love doing this with you guys. It's a ton of fun. I like listening to your show because it very much embodies the spirit of casualness, yet value, right? There's like a nice balance between not being too focused on the nuts and bolts, but then also like messing around too much. You guys do a really good job. I love coming on, and I can't wait till we all get to see each other, meet up, hang out in person at any keto conference, assuming they will let me in the door after they hear how I'm eating.
How dare you eat rice?
How dare I?
Very good. Well, thank you again for being with us. A reminder again to our listener, you can get links to all of our social media, our website, our Facebook groups, all of that at theketomansclub.com. And so just check that out and connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. One of the many ways that you can. Let's go ahead and just sign off there, because that's a great place to stop. Until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.